Here.
Mr. Kosis.
Here.
Ms. Pappas.
Here.
Ms. Renee.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Wardell.
Here. The notice requirements of Chapter 231 Public Law 1975 have been satisfied by the publication of said notice in the Asbury Press and the Coaster, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. Will you please stand and join me in flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have no minutes, communications, or presentations on the agenda tonight. We do have a representative from the Board of Education, so Mr. Cecile, if you have anything to share
Sure.
with us.
I'd like to share that, I guess by now everybody knows that our district lost $325,000 again this year. I just wanted to report that we are.
Hey, Anthony, would you mind coming to the mic so that
Sure.
people will hear you? I'm sorry.
All right, I'll start over again.
Sorry, yeah.
With much regret, I'd like to report that we lost another $25,000 in state aid this year. Luckily, through some juggling, we've actually lost 4 positions, but nobody had to leave the building. Through one person retiring, and then we juggled certs around and moved people around and filled other positions that were funded by the state funds. So we were able to keep 3 more people. One problem was we were looking to add a media specialist, library media specialist. That got put on hold. We can't possibly support that. The good news is that nobody was put out, nobody's out of work. More good news is we're hoping tomorrow we're meeting, I guess,
I'll be there.
with the town, with the mayor and Ms. Anissa Esposito, who's the deputy chief of staff for the 11th district. And she says that the assemblywoman's gonna be there also, so we can basically try and see if they can get us some funds, and maybe we'll be able to get the media specialist and have Wilson School get the funds that they're actually needing. We met with her already at last week or the week before, and she agrees, that we're getting short end of the stick, and she's got, I believe, 8 different districts that are in the same category. But just so everybody knows, we're not, taking it lying down. We're gonna fight for everything that we can get, and hopefully, we shall prevail. That's all I have
I
to
hope so
report.
too.
So,
Appreciate it, thank you, Andy. Yeah, it is unfortunate, to look around the state and see how the decision was made to cut some school districts and other are flush with cash. It just doesn't seem to make any sense when some towns are seeing $20 million, $30 million increase, and the smaller districts are seeing, like you said, $300,000+ cuts here. The school I work for got a $250,000 cut as well.
well, the unfortunate thing is that they told us years ago, because this didn't just happen this year.
No, I know.
They told us by the time it's all said and done, we'll be $1.2 million is what Wilson School is gonna get cut.
I don't know how they expect you to operate.
Yeah, so,
Let's see what we can do. We'll put our heads together. All right, thank you, Mr. Cicino. We'll move on to mayor and council report. So a few things tonight, and most of you, if you looked at the agenda, it's only we have 3 different ordinances that are set to be introduced on tonight's meeting. I thought I would just kind of give a little bit of background on each one of these. I figured that, people brought a little curiosity about one of these here. So we look at the first ordinance to be introduced is 2204, the short-term rentals. This was an issue that was brought to our attention about a little less than a year ago by some residents in town who were concerned about the rising number of short-term rentals that were going on in Neptune City. And these were rentals that were, different than the average rental where somebody, applies for the proper certifications, the inspections, and everything that's done like any other landlord would do for new tenants coming in here. This was done more through the apps where they do short-term rentals. People rent their homes for weekends, few days, and for the week here, which can be, really lucrative for somebody. And we don't want to take it away here, but does it outweigh the quality of life for the neighbors in the area here? So one of the things we want to do is try to create an ordinance here that would secure the short-term rentals while placing some limitations on it as well, to try to have a nice balance between those who are looking to take advantage of the opportunity to rent their homes out, because, you know, our proximity to the beach here does make it an enticing prosperity to do, possibility to do that as well. But we have to think about our residents who are concerned about huge turnovers in the homes near where the neighborhoods that they live in. So some of the things that we were looking through as we go through, and I think we're probably gonna have some more discussion on this here tonight here. You know, one of the things that we did create here is a 30-day minimum for any rentals from October through mid-May. The 15th of May here is 30 days minimum. But from May 15th to September 30th, the ordinance will read that you are allowed to do a 7-day minimum rental for people. But there is an exception for people who are using their primary residence that is on there. So one of the problems that we saw is that a lot of people were purchasing homes in the area, not just Neptune City, but I've heard of other towns, also other mayors as well, purchasing properties and using them purely for short-term rentals. Now, it's one thing to buy a property to use as a rental, as you know, you would see in this area here quite often. This is a place where people are making more money by renting it for like a weekend or a week at a time without going to the town and doing the proper channels and getting the certificate of occupancy, the certificate of inspections here. They were avoiding all those costs and charging really whatever people were willing to pay to use their homes over the weekend. You know, and some of our neighbors were really quite concerned here because they would have, you know, different people coming in every week or every weekend. Sometimes it would be, you know, somebody would rent it and it would be 10 to 15 people staying in a 2-bedroom home, and then a bunch of, you know, young kids who are using it because, you know, it's probably a lot cheaper to rent in Neptune City than it would be to say in Asbury Park or Belmar or something like that. So, and we're still having close proximity to the beach. But we did want to, I do want something to take away the ability completely for people who do it the right way. Because there are people who are doing it in town and doing it the right way and really discerning about who they rent to. So we were trying to be cautious and mindful of that as well. So if it was somebody using their primary residence, we didn't want to put any type of restriction on there. But that's something we can discuss tonight, something we want to put in there. We also put that all new rentals, whether short or otherwise, have to follow the same laws that any other landlord would have to follow. I don't think it's fair that people are renting their homes out on the short-term basis are getting to skip out on all of the steps that are involved that goes to, you know, doing a long-term rental. You know, making sure that the house is inspected and that's safe, make sure you're renting to somebody who's, you know, not somebody like somebody maybe undesirable, somebody who might be wanted by the law for any other reason that we have that there. You know, and also have to pay for the same fees that anybody else would have to. And also, one of the things we put in there is that anybody who wishes to use their property for short-term rental purposes has to register their property with the town. We need to know what properties in town are planning on using this option as a short-term rental. Because right now, I didn't realize it was even a problem until it was brought to my attention by a resident about a year ago. Actually lived on both around you, I know, and they brought to me, and they're like, the house across the court every weekend's different people. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's not, but you know, it's really kind of disconcerting to have just such a huge turnover in there. You know, I didn't buy my house as a neighborhood to live next to a hotel. You know, I wanted a neighborhood because I wanted to live next to neighbors. I said, I can understand that. But then I had other people reach out to me like, you know, we do it the right way. It's not fair that people are doing it the wrong way or taking it away from us. I said, you make a good point as well. So we try to find a balance on this, and that's what we put in that ordinance today. I know I've already spoken with you and myself, Mr. Coates, Mr. Thomas on the Law Orders Committee, kind of went great lengths, and I know, and I thank Jody for the work that she's done here to help us draw us here. So there's something we want to introduce tonight, but I know some other members of the governing body had some of their concerns. So I think that's what we're probably going to talk about most tonight. Also, we have ordinance 2205, which essentially just kind of puts outdoor dining that was allowed during COVID permanent for the restaurants we have here in town. I don't see any negative drawback to it. It worked well for the business. I thought it was good for the town. We saw no negative, but we figured this way they don't have to worry about what the laws or what the ordinance says in town. This will allow them to do it, you know, without any type of worry that they're breaking some sort of rule here in town. Of course, they have to apply for it. It has to be checked out, but it's not going to be as intense of a process as it would have been otherwise. And lastly, we have ordinance 2206, which is a redevelopment plan for both blocks, block 13, 18, lot 1 is for both here. If you guys are familiar with these properties, block 13, lot 1 is the area that is right next to the park on Laird. So it would be just east of the park that's on Laird. But, you know, if you're from Neptune City, you know they used to have, I would assume, I don't know what they held in that tank. I think it was oil at one time. They probably held in that tank. They had the big tank that was in there. That property's been vacant for I can't even tell you how long that property's been vacant for. And we had some interest in that property here with the idea of building a very modest condominium unit with only about 7 units here and off-street parking. But at the same time, we also introduced them to the property at Block 18, Lot 1, which is the former East Coast Ice property. And anybody who's from Neptune City knows that property has been pretty much unused for 40 years at least now. 40 years it's been unused. It was, we were able to cap it years ago for purposes of environmental purposes, but the redeveloper that was interested in the property next to the park was interested in that property as well and was willing to take on that project here until we can make that property a usable property. And this project, or this has been something that's been in the works since, well, 2020. Actually, I see Dennis here. Dennis, I think we spoke in January of 2020 originally about this, maybe February of 2020. This is something that's been on for quite some time. I'm glad to see this finally getting moving and going forward here, because we're talking about 2 parcels of land that, I mean, to say they're underutilized, I think is an understatement. They become almost eyesore blighted areas in town here, and the idea of not putting something not only usable for the public, but also making it look nicer, I think is a good thing. And also, these are properties, well, at least the East Coast Ice property has not been on the tax rolls for 40 years. You know, so that's property, that's 1.6 acres of property in Neptune City, which is not a big town to begin with, where we weren't collecting any tax revenue from that property. And once we were able to develop it, now we'll start bringing tax revenue. So we're gonna take an area that's been unused and overgrown, and I don't know, I want to use the word unsafe, but definitely unsavory area, and put something in there that will be useful for the area and will look much nicer. So I'm excited to see that going forward. So if this governing body is to send to approve to introduce that site, it'll then move on to the land use board. They will review the redevelopment program there, and hopefully this can start moving forward. So typically we don't usually have 3 ordinances to introduce in one night, so this is kind of odd, so I thought I would at least kind of talk a little bit. But I'm sure we'll have some questions when we get to it. There'll probably be some other things that we'll unearth as well. But moving forward with my report, I would like to wish a happy 100th birthday to Mrs. Rita Ennis Moore. We mentioned at the last meeting, we read a proclamation. I was fortunate enough to actually go and spend some time with her at her birthday party on Saturday at Spring Lake Manor. Got my picture taken with her. And I gotta tell you, if I'm blessed enough to live to 100 years old, I hope I look as good as Rita, as sharp as Rita is. You know, she was telling me how much she loved about Neptune City when she first moved here, and where she was at, and what's changed since we've been here. And she was just, it was really a joy to talk to somebody with so much knowledge. Her and her husband built their home in 1941 in Neptune City. So it was like 1941, so we're talking, what's that, 81 years ago? They built their home in Neptune City. That's an impressive thing to do. So I really enjoyed being able to spend a little time and chat with her. It was even nicer to be able to present the proclamation to her in front of her friends and family at their birthday party on Saturday. Also, we have our very first Veterans Committee meeting. It is going to be taking place on Monday, April 18th, and I believe we agreed at 6 o'clock here at Borough Hall. I don't have any type of agenda here because this is our first meeting. I think we're going to kind of feel out exactly what it is we want this committee to kind of get done here, and just kind of set up probably more permanent meeting dates, but we'll know more as we go forward. And as Anthony already said, I plan on meeting with Anthony and the representatives from LD11 to see what we can do to help our school district get, I mean, we're not even asking for extra money, we're just asking to be properly funded. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything we're asking, for our kids to be treated, with some respect, and our teachers with some respect, because, I mean, we also know Neptune City is one of the lower paid districts. The teachers that work there are not doing it to get rich, right? They're doing it because, they love working there. And there's, I think, 3 of us up here are Woodrow Wilson graduates, right? 4 of us, excuse me, 4 of us are Woodrow Wilson graduates, so we went to that
Not
school.
including the people that actually work in the school.
You got the number of Woodrow Wilson graduates that work at the school too as well. So.
Teachers, Mr. Folk,
Mhm.
not the business administrator, Mr. Folk, his son, who's now the head of the, maintenance, and he's, a lot of good things happen at Wilson School.
Yeah.
And we plan on keeping it that way.
Yeah, and so, I look forward to meeting tomorrow and see what we can do, put our heads together, and, I think we all work together, and maybe we can, get something done here, and just give us what we should be getting.
If you're not, if you can't help us, don't hurt us. At least if you left us flat,
I agree.
we can deal with that. When you start cutting stuff, it really is really devastating. It's really disheartening. We're trying to take care of the teachers, and every time we get a little bit of extra cash that we can give them, full, they cut us back.
Yeah, and I hate to think this is, I almost fear this is almost like a way of trying to force these smaller school districts to close.
Yeah. And
Which, you know, and I've said this, and I'll say it again, it's not a coincidence that New Jersey ranks either number 1 or number 2 in public education every year. Every year, and it's because of our small school districts. I mean, almost every study will tell you the same thing. Small school districts tend to produce better students. It's just, it's been studied, it's been proven. So, you know, although consolidation might look good because it might save money, we've done studies here. I mean,
well, yeah, no, you
it
know,
won't save us money.
it won't save us money. We'll be paying more because every other school district around pays more per pupil than we do. So, you know, I don't know where their thinking is, but
Well, I have no doubt it probably saved the state money, but I think it would hurt Neptune City, so, you know, I don't think they're thinking about that in the long run. And it's not like we're a school district that's, you know, we're not breaking the state, you know, education bank by any means.
no, I think we're kind of frugal, actually.
I think we're very frugal.
I think we do a very conservative job on the budget, and, it's really a shame.
It
But
is.
We'll see, we'll talk about more.
We will, so I look forward to meeting tomorrow, Anthony, and hope we can get something done. So we'll move along then to our council reports, and begin with administrative and finance, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a administrative and finance meeting on Thursday, kind of going over everything regarding the budget. We're looking to have an intro for a workshop later this month, to kind of go over everything. Things are getting expensive out there, especially when you're talking about pension increases, pension payments, just general cost of doing health insurance, general cost of just doing business. So we're looking at everything in a snapshot, but we should have that information, everybody ready to talk and discuss what we're looking at for this year going forward by the next council meeting. So another thing real quick, I just want to thank Arlene Sharapa and the Shark River Clean Coalition Group. We went out this weekend, as well as the LD11 legislators came out. Councilwoman Renee was there too. Did a lot of cleanup around the parks and all around the river in general. And I know I promised I wasn't going to lose a shoe. I definitely did. And
Did you really?
yes, I did. But thank God we were able to fish it out in about 5 minutes. So it's not in there. I'm not adding to any of my sneaker collection that's building up for future generations and civilizations to find and wondering what the hell it is. Excuse me. So other than that, just 2 other quick things. The Board of Recreation, we're having our meeting next week. There's a lot of fun events planned for the summer and later in spring and into the fall. So we're gonna have some more updates about that. And just a quick note, I know we had talked about doing the blood drive on June 3rd. The Red Cross reached out to me over the weekend and they had a conflict that came up. So we're actually just gonna be pushing that to June 17th. They're gonna notify anybody who's already set up to donate for the 3rd. And then we'll just have the information out there for anybody to sign up for the 17th. Okay.
Thank you. Public Works, Ms. Pappas.
Thank you, Mayor. As we all know, this is cleanup week.
Good job, Scott.
So it's cleanup week, get your stuff out, make it nice and springy and freshen up. It's also leaf pickup and brush pickup. Remember, keeping it off the curb for them to access it better with the equipment. Well, to piggyback, an opening on June 3rd came about, so Brian and I have thought about completing a hiring event for the Neptune City businesses at the community center on June 3rd. We just have a little bit more information to secure, but we'll host the event and hopefully get some good help for our struggling businesses in Neptune City. Last but not least, in connection with this being Autism Awareness Month, with the help of Jackie Kelly, if you're all familiar with Jackie Kelly, she's a resident, Jackie and Anthony from town, we're able to secure autism awareness vehicle decals. Reached out to the police department and they will be honoring that. That should be arriving maybe tomorrow or the next day, and then we'll be fitting 1 or 2 vehicles within the Neptune City Police Department. I was also able to reach out to Avon and Ocean Township as well, and they're also gonna honor and support autism awareness as well. Really proud of that. I think it's great to have so many people really come from their heart and do this, so that's it. Thanks.
Is that where they do the whole card, like, that's pretty cool. That's very cool. Law notice, Mr. Kostis.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for making my report easy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Last week we had a committee meeting and we went over the 3 ordinances that are on the agenda, and the mayor did all the details for me.
I didn't mean to step on each other, my apologies.
That's all right.
Administration and Justice, Mr. Farley.
Thank you, Mayor Burdell. Good evening to everybody. I met with Chief Matt last week, and those who didn't know, Chief Matt just went through 2 different surgeries, but he's doing great, and he'll be back in office soon. But he wanted me to share with everyone tonight and encourage all property owners, if you own a home or if you own a business, to please keep your property well lit. Unfortunately, there's a string of events that's happening in the area and the surrounding areas, and unfortunately, these events are happening in dark locations where they don't want to be seen. So we recommend that you get your house or your business well lit with the proper lighting. We did talk about the LED lighting, which is not as hard on your electric bill. So, and he also suggested that, you know, they're the lights that they come on if someone comes on your property, but then they go out after a certain time. But he recommends that you have lighting that stays on all night long and around the whole perimeter of the area. So, also, I did another ride-along last week, and I have another one scheduled for this Wednesday, and the ride-alongs are going very, very well. Thank you so much.
Special Service, Ms. Renee.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to reiterate what Councilman Thomas said, that the Shark River Cleanup Coalition was a great event. A lot of people turned out on Saturday to clean up not only Memorial Park along the river, but around the surrounding area in Wall and Belmar and in Shark River Hills along there too. So it was great. A lot of garbage was picked up, that's for sure. I think the biggest offenders were cigarette butts. And I know at Memorial Park there was confetti, so please people, I know it's a fun thing to do, but the confetti is just not good for the environment and for other people wanting to use the park either. So they were the biggest offenders, I think. But while we were there cleaning up, we had the opportunity to see the Easter Bunny drive by, which was very, very exciting. So I know this is probably what Scott might be talking about next, but I do want to thank the fire department. You know, it's just great, you know, the Easter Bunny coming around. And we had some visitors in town with the Shark River Cleanup Coalition. You know, their fire departments don't do that, and they just thought it was just such a wonderful thing to see the Easter Bunny driving by. So that was very, very exciting. And just wanted to let everybody know, since the rabies clinic, a lot of people have turned in their dog licenses, and we have about only 28 less than last year. So maybe after Easter next week, if you haven't, you know, come in to renew your dog license, you might be getting a little note in the mail just as a reminder. But if you haven't done so yet, please come in to renew your dog license. And that's all I have to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Human Services, Mr. Dillon.
Yep, I just want to remind everybody, you know, the fire department and the first aid are still looking for volunteers. I got a chance to run down to one of their cadet classes, and I think they actually have about 9 kids right now in their cadet class, which is a great turnout. I'm sure they could always use more, you know, coming in the future. If you want to just reach out to Rich Marr, and the first aid is Debbie Lashaw. And again, I want to thank the fire department for you know, the turnout with the Easter Bunny, and during the townwide yard sale was actually a really great turnout with and great weather too. So and seeing the Easter Bunny come down the street during the yard sale was a great time. And the lastly was last Friday with the boosters. The boosters fundraiser. It was a great turnout. I think we had a total of 135 people that actually came through the door. They raised a lot of money for the school, you know, for the boosters program, and it was definitely a great time and very eventful. And I didn't mess up too bad.
Scott did a great job.
Thank you very much. Mr. Giardini, Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few general updates, things that'll be coming up. we did receive from the state, those of the homestead benefit credits. So we did receive, there's about 330 properties that are getting them. These are actually from 2018. They would run a little bit late. So these credits will be being applied to the second quarter of the May payment. So those adjusted bills will be going out in the next couple of days for those 330 or so recipients. That's it. We also did just receive our tax appeal judgments. We only had a couple, probably about a handful that had changes. All of them were very minor in nature, so that's something good to hear. And, you know, credit to the tax assessor who often goes without hearing that. Then for the agenda, we just have a couple of things. As you mentioned, we do have the redevelopment plan. Just reiterating that a little more. By the introduction tonight, it would be referred to the land use board tomorrow night for consistency hearing. Then it would come back here for adoption of the ordinance, and then that's when we would work on creating the redevelopers agreement and enter into that, which would be a resolution which would have to be passed by the governing body at that date. So again, tonight is just the introduction to refer to the land use board for consistency. The other thing on the agenda, just to clarify, is the temporary emergency for the budget. That is, just to explain it, is, for a lack of better terminology, that's the terminology the state uses. When we adopt the temporary budget, we're capped at 26.25% of the previous year's budget. So naturally, as we're still working on adopting our budget, we're more than a quarter way through the year. It is just the natural appropriation of new funds to continue on. The word emergency is just, again, a state term that is used for that process. There's no way to set off an alarm in an emergency of any sort. It is just a natural term that is used for the state. That's all.
Thank you. So we'll now open up to public participation on any agenda items. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on an agenda item?
Can I add to my report?
Yeah, come on. You got it.
Yeah, as time goes on, I start thinking about it. I wanted to, one point of interest to Mr. Dellett, the cadet program, Chief Moore was a cadet. He came up through the ranks. I just wanted to be on record so that everybody knew that. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the teachers at Wilson School. We did lose the funding for our media specialist, library media specialist, but the teachers asked if they could, on their own, actually rebuild the library. And they're doing it on their own. They're fundraising, they're getting books, and they are, without having a media specialist, they're trying to rebuild, and I give them kudos, and just to show what a great staff that we do have, and I think they should be recognized every time that we get the opportunity. That's all I have.
Thank you, Anthony. I agree with you.
Mayor, if I can add something to that.
Sure.
There was actually a teacher that came over today, the library director, Teresa Trevello. She actually gave them some books to that, so they are out and about collecting books. So they, you know, any donations they do have for them, this town is contributing to that as well, to the library program.
Thank you. And just to follow up with that, I'm also collecting books on behalf of the governing body, and if anybody else would like to donate, please let me know. I've reached out to a couple organizations to get some gently used or brand new books, hopefully more new and gently used, but any amount of books will help. So if anybody has anything like that, please reach out to me, and we're gonna do a donation bin here too.
When is that day that they'll be collecting down at the Memorial Park?
I believe that's gonna be May 26th.
Okay. So now we'll open up to public participation on the agenda. Anybody wishes to be heard on anything on the agenda at this time? All right, seeing none, we can move along to unfinished business. Oh, here's something over there. Move along to unfinished business, and we're looking to the adoption of ordinance 22-03, our adoption of our floodplain management regulations, which is something that we kind of we don't really have an option here. This is something that comes down from the state that we have to do, but we still need to open up a hearing for this because it is ordinance. So we'd like to offer a motion to open the hearing for ordinance 22-03. Offer by Mr. Pappas. Second, Mr. Thomas. Do we need to do roll call? We do all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we are now in a open hearing on ordinance 22-03. If anybody would like to have any questions or comments on ordinance 22-03? Hearing none then, I need a motion to close the hearing. Offered by Ms. Pappas,
Second.
second by Mr. Farley. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, hearing is closed. Now we need a motion to adopt ordinance 22-03.
So,
Offered by Mr. Kostas,
Second.
second by Ms. Pappas. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Deli.
Yes.
Mr. Farley.
Yes.
Mr. Kosis.
yes.
Ms. Pappas. Ms. Renee.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ordinance is passed, thank you. Next, we move on to our new business here, and we're gonna have three different ordinances that we are looking to introduce tonight. We'll begin with the first one, ordinance 22-04, which is the introduction of the short-term rental ordinance.
So,
Offered by Mr. Kostas,
Second.
second by Mr. Thomas. Any questions or comments?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. On page 9, under chapter of short-term rental prohibited duration of rental.
The floodplain one is so long.
Yes.
There we go. One, two. What's the header under?
It's, well, the top of the page says exceptions for seasonal short-term rentals.
Okay. I'm here, I don't know.
So I'm a little concerned about or wondering more so, about how far in advance a landlord or a renter has the opportunity to get the application through the town and then get the CO, a certificate inspection. Does that allow the town enough time to do a background check on a week rental? Because I know like Verbo, Airbnb, they do their best to do a background check when it comes to criminal background, Megan's Law, stuff like that. I want to know basically, is there somebody being renting a house or a room that's 3 blocks away from my 2 girls? So is there a time frame that can be put in there? How long prior to their
I think
start of the rental?
it's hard to say right now what would be the time frames that would have to go through our construction office, be the one that does that, I believe, right, that we, Mr. Doolittle's office that would go through.
Well, on the current CI application, there's a Megan's Law disclosure, and that was part of the appeal to pass and something like this, is that we would have a list of who would be in the house and whatnot. There aren't background checks run, when purchasing a house, there are no background checks run on anyone purchasing a house. There is a disclosure on the CI application where they do have to sign off that they are not registered in Megan's Law. And that would be something that we could follow on that point, but there isn't necessarily any background checks on any rentals in that nature.
So they don't physically have to actually, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, guys.
There is a disclosure, they sign off, in the bottom of the CI application, there's a Megan's Law disclosure,
There is.
where they have to disclose that to the construction, to the housing
So
official.
anybody renting a house for the week would have to,
With this, yes, that is why we implemented the CI application for
But
these,
it's not
they would have to sign.
yeah, it's not verified.
It's not verified, it's just signed off.
Yes,
Because I know, like, when they do a certificate inspection, and a person moves into our neighborhood, it's notified to the town that, they're on that list. I can physically go there, but, with people moving in for a week down the street, I'd have to know who they are.
I would
Then go on
have to
the-
check with the housing official, how long the turnaround time for that is on that.
Because I know that, like, Airbnb, they physically do actually do a background check and a sexual background check.
Yeah.
Prior, when you're registering for the site, I should say, it is done prior to you being able to rent any property. And you have to sign off on that, and that's where my biggest concern is.
Yeah,
just the
I
time
sort of
frame.
check with the housing official as well as the police department to see what the turnaround time of that is. But we're following the standard process for any rental, which is the CI process with the Megan's Law disclosure on it.
Any other questions?
I think it's a little confusing on the page prior, at the very bottom of the page, where it says short-term rentals prohibited. It says, no type of dwelling unit as defined in 134-4 or segment thereof may be rented or leased for a term of less than 30 consecutive calendar days. And then the next sentence says exceptions for seasonal short-term rentals.
So according to ordinance, we would say that during regular, I guess, you know, the times outside of May through September, that it's a minimum of 30 days to do that. We put in the exception into the ordinance here to allow for short-term rentals during just that time frame.
Okay.
So any other time frame, so like you can't do short-term outside of these particular hours.
So like in the winter time,
Right.
it would have to be 30 days
Right.
minimum. Thank
Right.
you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
One more. The hearing officer. That, it seems like we don't really have a hearing officer. And is that something that we would be hiring somebody to be a hearing officer for just the short-term rentals? It says it would have to be an attorney.
Yeah, that's something we have not designated yet, but again, it is stated that it is an attorney appointed by the municipality, so it's something we have not necessarily predetermined as of yet, whether it would be, you know, something handled by the borough attorney or whether it be the court or what, but it is open for discussion. It's not something we have allocated as of yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it was trying to say like, we wouldn't probably appoint or hire anybody until we actually have the ordinance in place. And then we'd have to, we'd have to fill that position.
Yeah, it's a little confusing, because you would think that it would be handled by the court.
Which it probably will.
Okay.
And then, yeah, your municipal judge may fit into this definition of hearing officer, and it's likely where, because if you notice, this is for an animal house regulations. So for any violations, they would be referenced probably or referred to the hearing officer, which would likely be your municipal court system, would qualify for under this definition. So it just substantiates, I think maybe in some municipalities, they have a separate officer that handles this. You may not have, hopefully do not have an amount of volume of complaints where you would need a hearing officer designated for that purpose, so that's a good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Dellett?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Ms. Pappas?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Moving on to ordinance 22-05, the introduction of the outdoor dining ordinance.
So.
Offered by Mr. Kostis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dellett, yes? With her? Okay, second by Mr. Dellett. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Dellett?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Ms. Pappas?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you. This is a good thing. I think this is something when I talk, this is a good thing for our businesses in town. Lastly, ordinance 22-06, the introduction of the redevelopment plan. Do I have a motion? So, offered by Mr. Kostis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Thomas. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Yes.
Oh. Jumped the gun there, huh?
I was reading.
Mr. Dellett?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Ms. Pappas?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
And that's on record that's on permanent record now.
Jumping the gun here, that's all right. All right, next we'll move on to our consent agenda. All items listed are, oh, I'm sorry.
Do we need a motion to advertise for these ordinances?
No.
No, when you mentioned it last time, it took because you have to by law. So like, it's something we've done, but it's unnecessary to do, yeah. But when you brought it last time, I asked you about it, she goes, it's really unnecessary, you have to by law advertise them, so you really don't need a motion, you gotta do it anyway.
You're right.
You're right, you did pass, but you would do that.
Say that, and then we were questioned why. Not, just like, why, you have to do it anyway, why are you?
It's unnecessary.
Yeah, like, it doesn't need our permission to do it, it has to be done once we vote to introduce it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Whether we want to or not, they're being advertised.
Yep, so I figure we'll save us a step here. The consent agenda, all items listed are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the mayor and council, and will be approved by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless a council or council member so requested, in which case, the item or items will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. One motion signifies the adoption of all resolutions, receive and file letters, correspondence, reports, and approval of applications and I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So
Offered by Mr. Thomas, second by Ms. Pappas. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dellin.
yes.
Mr. Farley.
Yes.
Mr. Kosis.
Yes.
Ms. Pappas.
Yes.
Ms. Renee.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Resolutions are adopted, thank you. We'll then move on to the public participation portion of our meeting. If any member of the public has any questions or comments, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Jen, long time no see.
Welcome back. I have a question regarding the hearing officer aspect of that. If your municipal judge is gonna hear these things or issues, are they gonna is the people are entitled to a public defender, has to go through the criminal process? Like, how is that?
Well, I'm gonna defer to our attorney here, so I don't wanna answer any legal questions, but I imagine that would be something similar to like a disorderly persons type thing, where it would just be like a fine as opposed to like an actual criminal charge. Am I wrong?
No, that's accurate. I'd have to specifically look at it, but these are just minor nuisance violations. So it's unlikely that they would rise to the level of needing, public defense. Usually.
But I know from experience, if you go in front of a judge, you can bring an attorney or you can apply for a public defender. So that's what I mean, is there two separate processes, or it's gonna be heard on the same day with the other case?
All the same rules would apply.
Okay.
Again, this is something that we would, flush out. This is new, so this is a process that the borough would be new to. But any legal or statutory obligation that we would have to provide the same opportunity to be heard or the same right to legal defense would apply in these cases, just like anything else.
Okay,
It
thank
falls
you.
under the same criminal code that everything else falls under, so you'd be entitled to the same defense.
Okay, so basically, okay, I got it now. And Tammy, I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you, Jen.
You're
I'll
welcome.
be seeing you.
Yep, definitely.
Remember, be nice.
Anywhere else for the public wish to be heard? I see no one. We then need a motion to adjourn. Offered by Ms. Renee.
Second.
Second by Mr. Thomas. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Check in and see you. It's been a while.